welcome to DESO 876. Let's talk a property JA. Today's episode is about the role of an attorney in the process of purchasing and selling properties in Jamaica. At times, individuals can be overwhelmed, a bit turned off whenever they're thinking of purchasing or selling properties in Jamaica. So today we have with us an attorney at law, Monique Morrison. Hi Monique, welcome to DESO 876.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm ready to go. So, what is your first question?
Awesome. So Monique is ready and on the roll of talking on properties. So my first question, Monique, is what is a sales agreement? Most people see sales agreements and they're wondering what it is.
Okay, so it's basically a contract. And I have some notes here. It is a contract for sale or purchase of a property. It is a legally binding document that outlines the terms and the conditions of the transaction. It's a detailed agreement between the buyer and the seller, and it specifies some very key details of that contract.
Okay. Is it necessary to have a lawyer, or is it required by law to have a lawyer?
Okay, so as with all contracts, people have freedom of contract. They can contract however they want. However, I prefer to think of the attorney in a transaction as insurance. What do I mean by that? This is a trained professional who is licensed by the government of Jamaica. They understand what is required for the transaction, and they're there to help to protect the transaction and protect the parties. So I consider the attorney to be insurance to ensure the success of the transaction.
Okay. What are some of the information that can be found on a sales agreement?
Okay, so again, to my notes, the price, the purchase price, the description of the property, the legal description of the property, payment terms, any outstanding dues. So perhaps you have some apartment fees or something like that. You know, you may have your maintenance fees or something like that. A clear completion date. And I say these things specifically because any of these things, if they're not adhered to, can cause the parties to be at odds and sometimes the agreement to fall apart. Other things are the clauses representing the agreement, warranties, terminating conditions, and any of the things that are governing the success of the transaction. That is what is in the sales agreement.
Can a lawyer service both the seller and the buyer of the property?
Anything can happen. Again, people have freedom of contract. But that is something that I do not recommend for any kind of legal transaction. Not divorce, not land deals, no kind of legal transaction do I personally recommend nor practice to be the attorney on both sides. And the reason for that is that, again, the attorneys are there as insurance. When do we need insurance? When something has gone wrong. So if there is a dispute that arises, which side will the attorney take? That is how I look at it. So I don't err on the side that everything will be okay. I think about the possibility of something going wrong. And if something goes wrong, meaning the parties can't agree, or there is something that they are unable to negotiate, or, you know, there are anxious moments against each other, who is the attorney going to side with? Because one party will have one side of the story, the other party will have another side of the story. I don't think it is wise to have just one person, because sometimes one party may need protection against the other.
Understand. What are some of the legal responsibilities of the seller and the buyer?
Okay, the seller is responsible to ensure a clear title transfer to the buyer, including paying the transfer tax, managing the legal process for the title transfer, and disclosing any relevant information about the property, including outstanding debts or any other encumbrances. That is the job of the seller.
Okay. What are the state taxes one will have to pay?
So you don't want to know what the buyer is going to do? Let's talk about that first. The buyer makes his deposit upon signing the agreement. They provide their down payment, and then they obviously they pay the balance at the agreed time. They pay a portion of the stamp duty, and they through their attorney will review the documents to ensure that there's a successful transfer, a successful completion of the agreement. So their part is also to assist it by ensuring that the documents are okay.
Okay, cool.
So that's the job of the buyer.
Nice. And the state taxes one will have to pay?
The taxes. So there's a transfer tax, and there is the stamp duty and the registration fee. So, you know, people tend to think about those as, you know, big ticket items, but it's not a lot of them, just a few. But the attorneys can guide the buyer and the seller through the process of who pays what and how much.
Okay, nice. What payable needs to, what other payments do one need to consider?
Okay, so the more run-of-the-mill ones are like water for the property, the light bill, if it's a house, has it been paid? Are there taxes that are outstanding, or have the taxes been paid up? Is there any maintenance payment that is outstanding? If it is a strata situation, and other things can come up. Could there be repairs that need to be made? You know, because if on inspection you find, oh, you know, you turn it, flipping a switch in the house, and the light doesn't come on, and maybe the electrician needs to come, or there's a leak, or there's some other sagging roof, some other kind of repair or something like that. That is something that may need to be taken care of. Now, the purchaser may say, no man, I will deal with it, but give me a discount. Or the person who is selling may take care of it if it comes up during the inspection.
Okay, so it can go on any side.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the red flags that one should really look out for when purchasing properties?
Okay, I would say single attorney in the transaction, no attorney, because that puts all of the responsibilities on the one attorney. Both of those circumstances, when you have a single attorney, it puts all of the pressure on one person to ensure that the transaction is safe. And sometimes you want another professional to also look at it. You don't want to be the one to be drafting the agreement and also making sure that it's accurate at the same time. It's a very technical document. It has a lot of important information for the success of the sale. So that to me would be a red flag. But the more common ones that people think about are things like the names on the title. So it's a person who you're negotiating with the owner, because that's a big deal. Is there a title? Can the title be found? So a lady came to me once and said the seller says she owns the house but not the land. So I said, the what now? She said she owned the house and not the land. I said, miss, I'm not really sure what legal principle
That comes on.
she's using to selling this house. But that was that, you know, so those kinds of things you look out for, the names on the title. What the lady was kindly telling her is that she's selling her the house, but she don't have the title to give her. And of course, caveats. You want to look out for caveats. You want to look on the title to see whether or not there's a caveat. And a caveat is where someone is expressing that they have some kind of interest, because that is going to affect the transaction or the success of the transaction. It may just be that it slows it down because perhaps you'll take care of whatever has given rise to the caveat, but it's something to note as well.
But I know you mentioned in regards to the client and the situation where she was selling the house but not the property.
So she says.
But we have a lot of these money happening even in the country areas where people selling houses but not the property, or they sell the property but they don't have any form of legal document to show.
Which means that they don't have anything to sell you. You are just giving your money to that person. So you are parting with your money and you're not getting anything in return because they don't have a house to give you, because that's not their house to give.
Understand. How long can the process actually takes to purchase a property?
It depends. If it's a cash sale, yes. Yes, because then all you're waiting for is the law to come in, and you would be asking for the government to transfer your title from one person to the other. That can take a few weeks. Once that is done, then it's done. If there's a mortgage, it can take longer, depending on the terms of payment. You have all kinds of terms of payment. I've come across terms of payment where persons want to delay, so they ask for, they pay a part now and they pay the other part another time, or they exchange it for something else in addition to the money. Remember, as I said earlier, people are free to contract. So people come up with all kinds of novel ways that they are going to use to contract, and that can have some kind of impact. But the one that is most likely to make you take a long time in the normal run of things is if you have a mortgage and there's a problem getting the mortgage through, or it's not yet processed, or they start to look for a mortgage after they find a house that they're looking for, rather than try to see how much they are eligible for and get a pre-approval letter and all of those. So if those things are done first, then it can make it easier. But sometimes people start at a different place. They start looking, or something comes up. The house that they're living in, they're renting, comes up for sale. They didn't know it was going to come for sale right now, so they don't have a pre-approval letter, and then they're not prepared to move in that particular way. So those things can hold it up.
I know you also mentioned the cash sale, which is a quicker version.
Right.
But let's say an individual is purchasing with cash. What are some of the methods that they would go to? Because then we know that certain amount of money, when you have to deal with the bank, how would they do it? Would it be a manager's check? Would it be a bank transfer? What is the process?
So they would send the money to their attorney by an agreed method between them and their attorney, and that attorney now would send it to the other attorney, and then that attorney would give it to their client. So that's how it goes. So the person who is buying gives the money to their attorney. That's why I said, attorneys are insurance. So when the money is passing through us, we are supposed to be ensuring that everybody gets paid. So the purchaser's attorney gets the money, they take out their fees and the government taxes and the other attorney's fees as well, send it to them, and then the money goes to the seller.
Another question that I have for you, Monique, is what if the buyer pulls out of the process? They don't have any interest in the property anymore. What will happen?
Okay, so that is something that will be covered by the sales agreement. What typically happens is that there's a clause that dictates that they would pay for the attorney on the other side, and of course they would pay their own attorney too.
Okay, understand. Also, Monique, what if the purchaser is purchasing a property but the premises still have tenants?
That is allowable if the purchaser wants tenants. Suppose you're buying it for investment, and when you buy it, it already has tenants, and you don't mind. It's one less step for you to go and have to look for tenants if you're purchasing for that kind of investment. So that is something that you have to tell the person upfront, whether you are purchasing and you require vacant possession or not. So if you want it for your own purposes, let us say you wanted to renovate it or you wanted to live in, then you would say, I want vacant possession. But suppose you're going to live in there, but you're not ready to live in there yet, and you don't mind, or you want to become a landlord immediately upon purchase, and you don't mind the person who's continuing to live there, then they could continue to live there.
All right, so this is just a follow-up of the same question that I asked. So I think a lot of this is what is happening in Jamaica, wherein you have tenants on the premises, but the buyers purchasing the property. However, they might still purchase the property, but they're having problems to really get out the tenant. What is your recommendation on that?
Okay, so recently I was in a transaction representing a vendor, so the seller, and the person who was purchasing wanted to have the property for themselves, but they didn't say that. They didn't say that. The contract said that the property had a tenant, but they didn't. The person who was purchasing seemed to have overlooked that, or I don't know if their mind changed or whatever it is. But by the time that they had paid, they wanted to move in. So what did we do? Although they bought it now, so it's, but we didn't leave them high and dry. We assisted them in going to court and having before the completion of the sale, before everything was completed, we assisted them because they were willing to, complete the payment, and so we wanted to assist them by getting out the tenant. Before we knew they were going to have a problem with that tenant, because we were trying to get that tenant out, and that tenant was owing us. So we had a legal basis.
Okay.
Right, we had a legal basis. So we assisted by having the tenant evicted by legal means. So we engaged the court, and the court assisted us, and the court assisted the tenant too, because the tenant asked for an additional 30 days. And the court granted them the 30 days, and on the 30th day, the tenant left. Or I should say on the next available period, because it's not always just as tight as 30 days. But when the judge said they had to go, that was the day when the moving trucks came. So luckily they moved, and then the new owner now has the keys. They have moved.
Alright, so okay, Monique, we know that you're an attorney, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I practice mostly in the civil court, so family law, as well as matters such as these. You heard me talk about sales agreements, sales. We heard me talk about an eviction process just now. I also do data protection, so I train for data persons in the area of data protection. I just finished training some persons who will receive a certification in data protection. And I finished an AI course last week, yes. I was successful in my exams. Graduation is on Monday. So,
nice.
Yes, so I'm going to move into the area of doing advising on AI policy and governance based on my exposure there. So if you want to find me, you can come onto my TikTok, Morrison Law Jamaica. That's where I am on TikTok. I am on LinkedIn. And I've been on LinkedIn for a very long time. I'm new to TikTok, but LinkedIn, I'm an OG. And you can find me there, Monique N Morrison. Easy to find me there. I'm also on Instagram, Morrison Law Jamaica, and on Facebook, Morrison Law Jamaica. And if anyone wishes to email me with any follow-up feedback or anything that they want to reach out for having to do with what we've discussed today or any other topic, I would be pleased to take their feedback at morrisonlawjamaica@gmail.com.
Awesome. So there you have it, guys. Monique Morrison, attorney at law and your data protection act
Specialist.
So guys, please reach out to Monique on our Facebook page or Instagram and TikTok. All our details will be listed below in on our YouTube page.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique.
You're welcome.
So thank you so much, Monique, for sharing your words of knowledge. Thank you so much for coming to this 876. It's our pleasure having you here, and I hope we can talk more on other property details that we'd like to have in regards to having you as an attorney.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back. Talk about anything that you want to talk about. Thanks
Awesome.
so much. Have a good one.
So there you have it, guys. Deso 876. Thank you for watching Property JA. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and please leave us a comment in the comment box below. So see you again, guys, in our next video while we talk Property JA.